Hey, what's up guys? This is the One, and today I'm going to be going over 4 different Splatoon 1 maps I want to return the most, and what changes I'd like to see for them. So, I'm in Splatoon 1, and Gamer here is going to be helping me out so I can do a private battle and explore these things. So, let's talk about some changes. And, I hope you guys enjoy. I'll see you in the game. Okay, so first I'm going to cover general changes, then go through for each of the modes. Urchin is the one I have to talk about the least. So, for some general changes, I would like to see this left side expanded a bit, so it could be a bit easier for the defending team to move back in it. It's just really narrow, so something like a heavy can get up here and lock out super well. The main change I'd like to see is this area here, the drop, and this closed area aren't connected. But I think a section around here would be pretty interesting to connect the two. Whether it's some kind of expansion of the closed area, or some way to move through, I think it would be pretty cool. But I do think it would be broken to get too far behind the spawn here. So I would like to see something like, maybe on here, there's a rail for this team to go into the closed. So you can get into the closed from that area, and it would just bring more attention to closed, which can be really abandoned sometimes. So like say here the rail would drop them off like right around here, and then you could defend it. I would like to see mid made a bit bigger, so just this area here be a bit wider. I think it would overall be just a bit better for that. And then again, the same thing for the area here, like maybe move this wall over a little bit to where I'm shooting. And I think overall that's about all the changes that are really needed. So a lot of minor things for general changes. For splat zones, I would like to see a sponge here for the defending team. Same for a sponge here. I think it's just fair to give more movement options to the defending team on zones here. Especially this drop, they can get really trapped, and it gives more options here. And also repositioning up top can take a while through this area. So I think that's all zones really needs. For tower control, I would like to see the path be mostly the same. I think the first checkpoint should be around here, and assuming this area is wider as well. The second checkpoint should be right about here where I'm shooting. And from there it should travel to about right here, since the tower path will have to be shorter. I would also like to see a sponge here for the defending team on tower control, and this part can be a block on tower control like it is now. For Rainmaker, I would like to see this spot be a sponge for the defending team. I would also like to see the Rainmaker free zone vastly expanded. I think it should start from just around here in general should be a Rainmaker free, and then anywhere back here should be making sure it counts as a Rainmaker free zone. And for Rainmaker, I also think connecting these two areas would be cool. Maybe putting a kind of, like, expanding this part to the back and including a sponge, or not even a sponge, just a wall in general that could be inkable for the team pushing the Rainmaker or the defending team. And just bring another option for pushing the Rainmaker, and then maybe like a slant right here. For Clam Blitz, I would like to see the goal be around here, this area here. It seems a bit close, but the hill is a pretty defendable spot, and it leaves a flank option from the close, and I think that'd be rather interesting to defend. As for any parts here, I think it should also be a regular block here, and I think it should be a sponge for the defending team here. And that's my changes to Urchin Underpass for what I'd like to see when it returns. Let's move on to the next stage. Museum is the next map. This is another rather interesting one with a bit of small changes. As for general changes, I would love to see a rail in this area. Just a kind of mini rail, like one that would extend just a little bit and drop off, like that kind of would extend downward, but that could give you a chance to, like, jump into, like, right here at the farthest. Just a bit more options coming down from above. For zones, I would like to see sponges implemented more for the defending team. Because they didn't exist in the first game, it was really difficult to get back up, as the only way through in zones was through the middle spinner. And while I like that concept, I think it should be a bit easier for the defending team. So I'd like to see a sponge here for zones, and a sponge here for zones. I think that would be pretty fair. there's no real general changes anyway, besides that rail I mentioned at the beginning. For tower control, I think the blocks here are fine as is. So, tower control doesn't need much changes. As for the path, I think it should have its first checkpoint right here where I'm shooting. It should go more up on this area. Maybe the spinner spins only toward the area closer to where my bomb is. Spins on that area instead. The second checkpoint should be about right here. And then the third checkpoint be about right here, so people can defend from the block. I also think this area up here should be accessible. Like, no wait, it is accessible in tower control. My bad, I don't have too much memory of this. So, that's tower control, it's mostly fine. Rainmaker needs a few changes. First off, this area here, that little drop, is freaking malicious as a stalling spot in the previous game. You could bring the Rainmaker here, die, and you'd have to go all the way around once you manage to make this jump here. So I'd say either get rid of it, or, like, mostly just either get rid of it or make it on level playing field, or at the very least add a bit of a ramp here, just so you can't stall the Rainmaker there, because that was legit one of the biggest problems in the first game. As for Rainmaker paths, the top right is... I do agree with this part being boxed off for the Rainmaker user. So, I would say mostly keep it as is. Clam Blitz is the interesting part. I would actually really love to see a clam basket that... Now, it might seem a bit weird, but I'd love to see a clam basket that's attached to, like, one of the wall here. Like, maybe there's just one thing spinning here, and it just goes from, like, here to here. And it had the clam basket on the side with the grate. So the clam basket would kind of move a bit. But these rotations are timed, they're not random, so it wouldn't be random. And that would be the pushing, and the blocks would be the same as it was in Tower Control and Rainmaker, with them being positioned around here. And I think that would be really interesting for a Clam Blitz map. So you could come in from here, you could come in from both sides, and it would be a pretty interesting scoring system to have a moving basket. If we were to ditch the moving basket, then I think another interesting idea would be to place it around here. I think this section can be opened up in Clam Blitz, but to see, like, where that sprinkler is before I murdered it as the basket, I think would be another interesting idea, and then maybe have a bit of a block platform here to where it could stand. I think that would be pretty interesting changes for Clam Blitz, so that's Museum. Next up is Flounder Heights. So, I have some interesting ideas for this one, but I'll start with some of them straight away. Get rid of this grate right here, put one of the boost pads from single player right on this wall. All the way over here, don't make these grates and windows extend so far, and the grates on here. Put another boost panel, or even two boost panels here and here. These are things that boost you up walls really quickly, and on a map with as many walls as this, I think that would be super cool as a mechanic to have on this map. As for zones, I think that's mostly fine. This map is actually pretty well balanced in my opinion. So, I feel zones is mostly fine here. And I guess the only thing I'd like to see is a defending team sponge here as well. Obviously, you can see on your side of the map, but defending team sponge here. And that's about it there for zones. As for tower control, I would like to change up the checkpoints a little bit. I would like to have the first checkpoint actually be right here on this rise. So it'd be a super hard point to contest. So like maybe a 6 or 8 point checkpoint. Then drop, go to the right a bit, and once it gets into this corridor, another checkpoint. And then the tower would stop here at about its final point. And rather than going back up into the plat and ending around here, I think it should go more toward the right and end here. Now, Rainmaker is going to be the biggest point of contention, because obviously this was pretty bad in Splatoon 1. So, I would like there to be a giant block right here that both teams could use. Now, the reason I think that would be a good idea is it opens a new option to pass the Rainmaker. And also, I think this side should be connected always on all modes. There should be a sponge here. I did forget about that. So you'd be able to go through here, expand this hallway in general as well. And then this is a push option to go through here. More risky because it's easier to stop, even with this a bit wider. And then the pedestal should be right here. It should be further away, so about right here is a pretty fair point. Maybe back this area up a bit. This would also make this push less strong, because getting up the ramp rather than being at about 19 here would be at about 25 to 30, because the pedestal is further away. It also means this right side, while still being a strong alternate option, isn't as strong because you can't jump and immediately dunk. You would have to paint the wall slightly. I think that would be the changes for Rainmaker, and it could work out pretty well. So that's what I'd like to see for that. Clam Blitz is actually a pretty weird one for me here, and this has by far been the hardest one for me to decide what to do. Because normally the Clam Blitz goal isn't too far into the enemy base, but with here I don't see it to be much way around it. So I would say, in general, expand this to be a bit further to the side, so that this area is more open, and put the clam basket right there, where that bomb would be. I think that would be to a point where it's not too far away, but you could score. And also you would probably have to make sure you can't jump off that rail and throw super clam in, or even some regular clams. And that's the changes I'd like to see to Flounder Heights. Yes, I know the big gimmick of what I said for the changes to the boost pads and the alternate Rainmaker path, but again, I don't think these stages need major changes. I just want to see a few things change to spice them up a bit. We got one more stage left. Let's take a look. Alrighty, so the main thing I would like to see in this stage is ride rails being taken advantage of, which is basically the rails where you can use your main weapon on. I'd like to see two of them implemented. The first one I would like to see right here. Following this entire upper path, right around the edge of this block, and then ending about right here where I'm shooting. So you could jump back to snipe or jump into mid here. I think that'd be a really interesting ride rail, and it would have to go like decently high for zones, but I'll talk about that in a bit. The second ride rail I'd like to see is another way to get through from base, which is right where that bomb is. I'd like to see it go all the way around and drop off exactly right about here at about this height. So that's what I'd like to see for general changes. Other than that, there's not too much that needs to be done. Except I would say move this raft a bit forward, so this could also be another jumping forward option that's a bit less tight to make. As for zones, there's normally, of course this is empty and this is the zone, that's fine, there's these barriers. Lower down these barriers a bit so the rail can go a bit above them. In general, they were really high up, which could lead to a bit of shenanigans. So just lowering those a bit. Also, the defending team should have a sponge right here, bit by the rail, so they could back up from this position. I get that this thing's moved up too a bit, but just a bit more for the enemy team to reposition on zones could be really useful, because you could get trapped on this side pretty easily. As for tower control, I'd like to see the tower go through and hit a checkpoint right around here. So once it starts to go toward the left. After that checkpoint, it goes back down to the right, and it hits another checkpoint here. Remove this section here, plus that's moved closer, so it's a bit easier to get onto. And have the endpoint for the tower be right around here. This way it's not over the water too much. Because the platform would extend to right about here, I think the tower would be able to go through pretty smoothly. Next, for Rainmaker, I think that, without a doubt, there needs to be a Rainmaker free zone past this wall area here. Since this will be opened up for the ride rail, I think it should be a Rainmaker free zone about here. And also I want to make sure that I note the Rainmaker should be a lot slower on ride rails and other things, as that could be a pretty tricky shortcut here to the part there. And for anyone saying it'd be broken and stalled on the rail, you can't stall on ride rails. Once you're in it, your momentum goes all the way through. So I think that'd be a fair trade, because it could be pretty easy to get killed and reset over there. Or maybe even... Actually, yeah. A sponge maybe here for the offensive team. Maybe extend a block here so that they can get the Rainmaker when it resets here on the ride rail. Now, if we do Clam Blitz, I would like to see the basket be on this left side. Now, we talked about moving this platform up before, but I think it being about right here on this platform, or maybe just put a bit of a block here, and have it be here and extend this over a bit. Something like that. I think the basket should be around this area. Now, if Gamer over here will get the Rainmaker and move it to 40, so we can get the stage gimmick, I can talk a bit more about what will change here. Because I remember there is one thing that absolutely irked me on this stage that needs to be changed. Now, this may seem minor to you, but to me, this is major. Absolutely put some ground here. It's so easy to fall into this tiny little hole, and it shouldn't be here. Please get rid of this. Other than that, that's about all the changes that happened from this area. Maybe a defending team sponge, but not really, actually, scratch that. I think that should be a Rainmaker free zone on this drop here as well, is the only other thing I would say. Other than that, that's about all the modes. For Clam Blitz, thanks, Gamer. That's Gamer, everyone. As for Clam Blitz, I do think it would be important to have the basket there. Not, like, this part wouldn't move up in Clam Blitz. This part would stay down more toward the ground, as it's a key part for the baskets. So that part would not move up on Clam Blitz. And that's my changes to Maki Maki and all the Splatoon 1 stages. I hope you enjoyed the video, and let me know what you guys want to return and what changes you want to it. I will see you guys in another video. Thank you for watching. Bye.